What's up, everybody? I'm Alan Hain, the Lawn Care Nut, and this is episode 16 of Lawns Across America. Well, welcome back, you all, to the second half or the back half of May 2019 lawn season, and I can tell you that things are really rolling. And it's been a lot of fun to look over the questions this week, and just between you guys and me, it's been a lot of fun to look at the way the questions have come in over time since we just started the podcast early this season. It's been fun to document the way the season is rolling via these podcasts. Now, one thing I wanted to say is if you do want to ask a question, if you want to be on the podcast, if you want to get your question answered, but not only questions, if you want to make a comment, if you want to give a report of something you've done, learned, maybe something that you want to improve upon from my previous podcast, something you would add, a tip or a trick that you think would be helpful to the audience, you can also call in on the LCN Tips line at 833-526-8477. Now, that LCN Tips line, it's primarily, again, for you guys to ask your questions, and I'll answer those on the podcast as I can. Keep in mind that a lot of the same questions will come in there and email and everywhere else. And so I'll just pick one for the week that kind of covers as many as I can, and then that's obviously why sometimes I run off on these strange rabbit trails and everything, because I'm kind of trying to answer a lot of questions in one. Ben the Lawn Guardian always has a good time trying to break up the podcast, which is another thing that we do. If you want to find us on YouTube, Lawns Across America, we do take this long-form podcast, and we break it up into segments so it's easier for you to digest, and that way you just have a nice title there that tells you what each segment's about, and you can kind of pick and choose if you want. You can find that on YouTube at Lawns Across America, but either way that goes, if you want to be on the podcast, get your question answered, give a good report, give a tip to the rest of the community, call 833-526-8477. That's 833-LCN-TIPS, 833-526-8477. Now, I want to give a huge shout-out to Johnny Mack and the guys over at the Jacksonville, Florida Fire Department. That's the Jacksonville Fire Department hazmat team. That's the shirt that I'm wearing here. Johnny Mack is a super hardcore lawn care nut. Sent me some pictures of his setup. By the way, you guys love to make fun of my garage and the way my garage is messy and all that. That is totally my personality. There are two messy things in my life, my garage and my desk where I work. Those are my two messy things. My truck is spotless. You know, everything else, my office itself is spotless. No, I shouldn't say that. My wife would definitely not agree with that. Okay, my office is not that way. It's bad. Either way, you get what I'm saying. But Johnny Mack sent me these pictures. He's got the setup in his garage. I mean, super macked out. Everything has a place. Everything is labeled. I mean, he's one of these guys that outlines his tools and kind of thing, you know. Super good guy. And you know what? That makes sense. You know, firehouses are the same way. Super clean, the firehouse is. So wanted to shout out to Johnny Mack and the guys over at the Jacksonville Fire Department. Thanks for sending out this T-shirt and some of your patches. Really appreciate that. And then I also wanted to give a shout out to the Left Tool. If you guys don't know who the Left Tool is, there's a YouTube channel called The Lawn Tools. I think they do some evil grass type Bermuda or something. But either way, it's a nice new channel that's come on the scene. They're doing a lot of music kind of stuff. You can see their... If you're on the YouTube version of this, you can see their sticker somewhere around this bucket. Right there, the Lawn Tools, the guy on the left, that's the Left Tool. They made me this super sweet hat that I'm wearing. And it's got, I don't know if you can see it in the video here, but it's got LCN. It's like an AstroTurf, LCN on the front of the cap there. Super cool, something original. I really love that. Thank you, Lawn Tools. Look them up on YouTube, the Lawn Tools. So some shout outs this week. So as I was going through my week, though, I like to watch a lot of YouTube. I'm a YouTuber in myself, and because I'm a YouTuber, I tend to use YouTube as my TV, as my primary source of entertainment. So, you know, I watch a lot of channels like Philip DeFranco. I watch for news and things like that. I watch Joe Rogan. That's a podcast, but I watch Joe Rogan via YouTube. There's a bunch of others. I even watch PewDiePie. So I watch a lot of things from all different genres. I could sit here and name a whole bunch of channels, and maybe if that's something you guys like, I can share with that. But one of the channels that I watch on YouTube is called H3H3. And what they are is essentially they're comedians. It's a husband and a wife, Ethan and Hila. So in a sense, Ethan and Hila are comedians in the sense that traditional comedy is basically commentary on society. You know, that if you look at stand-up comedy, the origins of it, and some of you guys are going to wonder, where am I going with this? Just trust me, I'm going to bring it home here. But the history of comedy is really comedians are using the tool of humor to bring out a subject, to put light on something, to get you to think differently, to get you to look at something from a different point of view. And a lot of times that might be political. A lot of times it might be about society. It might be about a lot of different things. But that's what comedy is. And these YouTube comedians, especially Ethan and Hila here, that's what they are. They're just bringing light onto things. They do it through what are called memes. Memes are just commentaries on society, and they react to the memes, and their reacting to the meme is their form of stand-up comedy. So a lot of the things that they might do, meme reviews or trend reviews, don't necessarily appeal to me, or not necessarily in my age group, because I'm just a little bit older, but a lot of the things they do actually do hit my purview directly, and this one did. So they have a video on the H3 channel, and again, if you go there and you're a little bit older, don't be shocked by what it is. Just get yourself through it, because I'm telling you there's a good message there. But they have a channel, or they have a video on the channel called Instagram versus Reality. And I'm going to play the intro clip. This is Ethan Klein. He's the comedian. I'm going to say that in a term that I can just relate to the broadest audience. He's the comedian. I want you to hear his intro here and the way he talks about Instagram versus reality. And then I'm going to relate this to us. I promise you I am.
Have you guys ever browsed Instagram and wondered why everyone looks so beautiful? Why does everyone have such a perfect life? Why is everyone having so much fun, has perfect skin, is always laughing and smiling? Why is my life so boring as I sit here in my underwear covered in breadcrumbs, sad and alone? Why?
So let me just read you that. Just listen to this. I'm going to relate this to lawns. You guys are going to get it. You are. You guys ever browsed Instagram and wondered why everybody looks so beautiful? Why does everyone have such a perfect life? Why is everyone having so much fun, has perfect skin, and is always laughing and smiling? And why is my life so boring as I sit here in my underwear covered in breadcrumbs? So what the video basically is, and again, I'll link to it if you're on YouTube, on the Lawns Across America YouTube channel, I'll link to it. But he's talking about how people are going to lengths to Photoshop out all of their flaws, to Photoshop out certain parts of their body or whatever, so they look perfect. And they're creating a certain scene, a certain way, they're creating I don't know, is it even a culture? They're creating a look and a feel that is not real. And they're using tools like Photoshop and things like that to fake it, I guess is the way to say it. And it's creating like this fake look and this fake way of life that is damaging to people over time. Like some people look at that and they think they'll never measure up. And that's what they're on. So they're doing the commentary on that and how does that affect society and what does that mean to our society. But I can take that down into our small pond where we're at and look at it this way. So let me read it to you in a way that maybe a lawn care nut would do it. Like if I was putting myself in your shoes as a beginning lawn care nut, somebody that's just learning about lawns, who just bought your first house 2 weeks ago, and you're looking at this lawn and you're like, holy cow, what do I do? So you happen to come on Instagram and find the lawn care nut. What am I conveying to you? And I wanted to look at it from that perspective. So now let's look at it this way. You guys ever browsed Instagram and wondered why everyone's lawn is so double dark green? Why does everyone have such perfect stripes? Why is everyone having so much fun edging and weed whacking? They have no weeds or crabgrass, and they're always enjoying the mow while smoking a Cuban cigar and drinking a cold IPA. While my lawn is patchy and weedy, as I sit here in my garage trying to figure out how to get my lawnmower blade off so I can sharpen it in my underwear covered in Milorganite. So I hope you get the point there. I wonder how many new folks are sitting there and looking at the photos that we put on Instagram and wondering, I'll never be there. These people are perfect. I wonder if that even becomes a non-starter for some of you. Some of you think, I'll never be able to do that, and so you just don't try. So here's what I want to say. If you're somebody that just bought your house like 2 weeks ago and you're out there staring at your lawn thinking, wow, this is what I got to do, and you're looking at me on Instagram, that is not reality. What that is it's one snapshot in time on a platform that requires that you give your best one snapshot in time. If I have that one moment to post, I'm not going to post a bad moment where I'm getting bitten by mosquitoes. If I'm posting that I'm smoking a cigar, you don't see the 7 hours, in the 94-degree heat, 100% humidity that I toiled through. I don't usually post that on Instagram, but I will post that beautiful, rewarding cigar and a brew in front of the sunset in the evening, see? Because that's what Instagram is looking for. So don't just think that. It's the same kind of thing if you think about it in this manner here. I put a few cigar pictures up on Instagram. I've put up 2 pictures of cigars in the last 45 days, maybe 60 days on Instagram. Yet people all the time think I'm a smoking of cigars guy. Like they think I smoke cigars every day. All the time people are like, oh, next time you smoke a cigar tomorrow, or next time you see us, let's have a cigar. It's always a cigar. It's always a cigar. People think I'm always smoking cigars all the time. I smoke like one a month, maybe, and I do put it up on Instagram, but because you only see those one moments and they're such beautiful moments, you think, wow, he must have that every night. It must be sunset cigars at his house every single night. And the answer is no, it's not. Instagram just asks for you to convey that. Now, if we talk about the faking side of it, that's not the faking side. That's just the reality side of what Instagram is. If you talk about, though, the faking side that was talked about in the video I referenced from H3, I have a what I call a famous video. Well, I think it's my favorite video. It's called How to Dominate Your Neighbor's Lawn. If you go and Google search How to Dominate Your Neighbor's Lawn, especially if you do that on YouTube, you'll find that video. I don't know how many millions of views it has now, but it's one of my most popular videos. And in that video, I'm giving people tips. It's mostly tongue-in-cheek. It's really fun. It's meant to be funny on how to make your lawn look better than your neighbor, right? So you shame your neighbor. You dominate them by your lawn, right? And there's a whole lot of ways you can go into that. And someday maybe I'll break that down on the podcast, all the different ways that you can go into that and all the different reactions that we get over the years from that. But either way, I'm giving you tips on how to make your grass look better than the guy next to you. And I do things like put an edge guard on your spreader, and not even like a real edge guard that cuts off the flow. No, I mean, just put a piece of cardboard there so like double flow drops right on the line between you and your neighbor. So you get like a triple, quadruple dark blue line right next to your neighbor's pale, lime green lawn. So that was like a tip I gave. Another tip I gave was to mow taller than your neighbor because the uncut man always looks bigger. I talked about edging when your neighbor doesn't edge. By the way, if you have somebody in your neighbor that doesn't edge their sidewalk and you do, immediately you stand out and you dominate. So it was those kind of things, right? And it's just fun. And a lot of people connected that. But one of the things I said at the end was, hey, the other thing is when you put your pictures up on Instagram, make sure you use the Mayfair filter because it makes your grass look the best, right? Now, today, I don't think that even stands clear because that was many years ago. And that Mayfair filter still does exist, but it looks so fake now when I did some tests with it because I was looking at it. It looks super fake. But again, it was all tongue-in-cheek. The whole thing was to be funny. To that end, I don't do that on Instagram. When I put up pictures of my lawn, I'll tell you what I do. And again, the first thing is you have to realize I just don't take pictures of my lawn where I know it's going to look ugly. So that's not faking anything. That's just setting things up, man. That's like what your grandma does, right? If you go to your grandma's house and you look at all the pictures of the family for the last 60 years, all of your grandma's house, everybody's smiling, everybody's hugging, they're out in the lawn, Johnny's playing horseshoes with your Uncle Jack, and everybody's having a good, there's the barbecue smoke's going. All the pictures all over your grandma's house are all smiling faces of everybody, all do the different ages, right? Everybody's always smiling. What she doesn't have on the wall, though, is a picture of Uncle Jack, the next morning where he wakes up with a hangover because he passed out from drinking, too many beers at the Thanksgiving dinner over by there, right? She doesn't have that picture on the wall. So that's how society kind of works. That's just how we live. That's how we go, right? So I don't think that posting the most beautiful spot in your lawn, what I would even call your ideal spot, I don't think that's anything bad. I think that's a good thing. I think you should do that so you get encouragement, man. Find that little tiny little ideal spot, and those are where you take all your pictures. You might call that a little fake it till you make it action, but what it is, because we're talking about lawns, we're talking about something harmless here. What we're talking about is the ability to get somebody to go, wow, looks good, to give you that shot of adrenaline so you'll keep working hard to get more of your ideal spot, to get your ideal spot to grow, to get larger, to get bigger, so you'll have more spots to take pictures in your lawn so you can do better pictures and more pictures and have more variety. I am really taking this down a long way, but this is part of the whole progression, I think. I feel like this is just how the internet works these days. So that's not faking it. Now, putting on filters, though, strong filters is, and so I'm going to tell you what I do and how I edit my photos on Instagram because I think this will be funny. And then you guys can tell me if you think this is faking. I have edited probably 90% of the photos that I've put up in the last couple years. I've edited this exact same way. So again, I take a picture in the most beautiful spot because I'm just picking my spots, bruh. But then from there, what I do is you go down and I obviously straighten everything out or however you do that, and I crop it the right way. So I get only the right spot in there, the palm trees bleeding over the right way and, all kind of things like that. And I make sure my horizon is straight. So I think those are really normal, natural things. But then from there, I hit edit and I do a couple things. The first thing I do is I apply structure. That's one of the options to, and this is for my pics with lawns. I'll apply, or really with selfies too. I'll apply structure. Something about structure makes things a little more vivid to my eye, but it also makes your lawn look a little bit thicker because it shows like more striations in there. So I put a little structure. Don't overdo it though. The next thing I'll do is, depending on the light, I will apply a little sharpen or take out a little sharpen. That depends on the light. Usually, though, I know how to do it. I'll do a lot of things with a lot of heavy sun, and then I'll sharpen it because it adds like a little bit of a fairy tale effect to it. Some of you are going to be like, "Oh, you're such a faker." Hey, well, I'm telling you right now, here's how I do my Instagram. Then brightness. I'll adjust brightness up or down. I think that's just a normal thing because I just want to make the brightness look normal to the eye. So that one's not anything like that, but you will get, sometimes the grass will get a little darker in some spots, or certain spots of the grass will be highlighted, and that'll look nice. And then I do put a little vignette on there, vignette, a little vignette. I do that, not a lot, but I like a little darkness in the corners to pull it in and make it look homey, like grandma's pictures on the wall. So that's how I do my pictures. I have edited almost all of them that way. So if you go to my Instagram and you see all those pictures, now you know. Those are not fake, but those are definitely staged. Those are definitely set up a certain way to convey a certain look and a certain feel. Now, if you go to my YouTube channel, it's much different there. I'll show you every weed. You can go look in my last 2 or 3 videos. I show you every weed. I pick weeds all the time and all those kind of things. And I'm always showing you what's going on in my lawn. But I'm also telling you that it's so thick and I push it so hard and I mow it so much that even though those weeds are there, you can't see them. I don't do any kind of sharpening or any of that kind of stuff, color grading. I do none of that in YouTube. I don't touch any of that stuff because I do not want to mess with that. I've tried, learning that. Ain't going to work, man. I want to pull the camera in, drop it in, edit, and go. So what you see is what the camera sees. Now, I will tell you that the GoPro 7 does really, really well with grass. To my fellow YouTubers out there, the GoPro 7 out of the box, just the settings as they are, makes grass look really nice. But that's just how it is. That's GoPro out of the box, and we all use them. But I don't hide anything. It's just the grass is so thick and so beautiful, you don't see the weeds. Now, I can see them. I can see even in my last video, I can see a giant patch of nutsedge, a kalinga. I can see it because I know it's there. That's part of the other thing about the way stuff works. So what I'm trying to say is none of us have perfect lawns. I especially do not have a perfect lawn. You'll see it on YouTube. I can tell you, anybody that lives in Florida, you have weeds in your lawn 10 minutes after it rains every day. I don't care how good you are. Those rains that we get every afternoon push up weeds. Every lawn in Florida's got weeds 10 minutes after it rains. So I don't have a perfect lawn, and I don't want any of you to be non-starters. Now, what happens is, though, some of this also bleeds over to competition where people think, well, I will never measure up. I've seen this in the Facebook group. Everybody's posting beautiful pictures of their lawn stripes and all these kind of things, and I've just told you the whole philosophy behind that. All of those people that they do the same thing I do when they post pictures in our Facebook group of their beautiful lawn with the perfect stripes, the perfect time of day with the sun right behind them, right? They're doing the same thing. Everybody wants to do that. That's fine. That's the way it works. But what you shouldn't think is that you're in competition with them or me. So I'll tell you something here real quick when it comes to that. Again, not being in competition with other people that you see online and not being in competition with me, because many of you have way better looking lawns than me. There's YouTubers with way better looking lawns than me. I could name them, stacks of them, but we're not in competition. You're actually in competition with yourself, or actually, as my friend Greg Lake, who is one of my mentors at True Green, taught me, don't compete with the other guys. Make it like golf, where you're competing against the course. Your job is to lower your handicap on your course. And that's exactly how lawn care works. Sure, we're going to try to compete with the neighbor. That's all in good fun. You can talk about that while you drink a couple 2-tree old styles at night on a Friday night. But for real, though, you're in competition with last year. You want to be better this year than last year. You want to be better this month than last month. You want to be better this week than that last week. You want to be in competition with yourself. Play against the course, not the other players. Also, if you approach it that way, I really do think that our community, the lawn care community, is very welcoming in that manner, and that you come in and we do want to help people out. And I've seen that across the board. And that's why I represent all these YouTubers all across here, and all these, some of these are Instagrammers and everything else. I represent all these folks here. If you're on the YouTube channel, you'll see it, because we all believe that same thing. We're all here as a community to help build each other up so that we can all have those beautiful Instagrammable moments. Okay, so our first question this week comes out of Mooresville, North Carolina, and this one is actually one of our recordings. So this one came in on our LCN tips line. Don't forget, you can call in and be on that one, 833-526-8477. If you want to be on the LCN tips line, it's 833-LCN-TIPS, 833-526-8477. I know you guys like my pronunciation there of North Carolina, and here we go.
Hi, Alan. This is Tony in North Carolina. You've been helping me with turf-type tall fescue. I'm in Mooresville, North Carolina, about 30 minutes from Charlotte. I have a question for you. Last year, I was using the Heritage G, and then I would alternate that with the Eagle. because I have had a real bad problem with rust fungus. My question to you is, I saw the Bulletproof plan and went and priced it all out. I bought the Scott's Disease X and the Bio-Advanced Fungus, both in the granular form. And I wanted to see, because I'm on a budget, if it's okay if I just alternate between the two. So this month, do the Scott's Disease X. Next month, do the Bio-Advanced Fungus Control. And then, obviously back and forth, except applying at the higher rate instead of the lower rate. Any help you could give would be great, and thanks for everything you do. Totally love all the information. Lawn's looking great. I've got some neighbors that are using some of the companies that you've mentioned, and they've been watching me do it all myself, and to be honest, my lawn seems like it's looking better than theirs. So thanks again. Talk to you soon.
I love it, Tony. You hear that? Tony's like, yeah, man. See, he's got that little spirit of competition going there, and I love that because that's motivating him to get better and better. So these are great questions, and what Tony's talking about is my bulletproof disease or bulletproof fungus strategy, bulletproof fungicide strategy for lawns. I still don't know how to get the name right, but basically it's my strategy to prevent disease in your lawn. And the main one that I've talked about is brown patch. And brown patch is one, it's Rhizoctonia is the root, I guess. That's the real name, the technical name, Rhizoctonia. Rhizoc. All the cool kids go, yeah, man, we're watching out for the Rhizoc in our lawns. We got to get out and get ahead of the Rhizoc. So people talk about it that way, but that's what brown patch is. And brown patch for me is something I'm going to watch out for definitely in my zoysia, my Empire zoysia, all zoysia, not just Empire. You want to watch the fungus there. You want to watch for brown patch in that as we're going into seasonal transitions, as well as turf type tall fescue, highly susceptible, and St. Augustine grass as well. Now, centipede can get it. There are a couple others. I don't want to get too hung around the axle on it. If you go to my website, thelawncarenut.com, and you sign up for my email newsletter, we'll send you out a whole bunch of different information that goes through this, but I did basically a 3-part series on it, including from this podcast, as well as my YouTube channel has a video on it, and then we did an email blast, and we talked all about it, and that's what Tony is referencing here is my bulletproof strategy to prevent fungus in the lawn. Now, he's talking about specifically rust, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But the first thing is, let me just review the bulletproof strategy with you in case you're new here, in case you're somebody that's been reading, watching, listening. I'll go with some repetition is the key to learning here, and we'll go over it again. So leading into seasonal transition times when the disease triangle can all come together. It's like 3 legs of a stool. The stool won't stand up until all 3 legs are in the proper position. The first leg of the stool being your turf grass, which is called the host. Your turf grass is always present, so that leg of the stool is always screwed in and ready to go. The second one then would be the actual pathogen or the disease itself, spores in this case, for rust. And rust spores will stay over winter, so it's not like something that goes away. If you had it last year, you'll probably have it again this year if symptoms persist. So that's always there. And that third leg then would be the environment. The environment has to be right. And typically when I talk about the environment, we're going to talk about moist, we're going to talk about some cloud cover, we're going to talk about some moisture around. We're definitely talking about humidity on the rise, and we're definitely talking about a heat transition. Now, it can sometimes be from heat down into cold, and then sometimes it could be from cooler up into heat, but there's always some humidity in there. That's the environment. When those 3 legs of that stool come together, the disease will manifest. So what you want to do is get your fungicide down prior to that happening. So as conditions favor disease, because remember, the pathogen's always there, especially in the case of rust, and your host is always there because that's your turf grass. If the conditions start to come in, then you need to prevent. And so you want to put that down. So basically, it's as seasonal transition is happening and as humidity is rising, and definitely over outside of Charlotte, North Carolina, it is definitely getting some more humidity over there. All right, sorry if I used that bad accent there. So the bulletproof strategy then says we're going to use 2 different modes of action fungicides to prevent the disease. Now, again, I talk about brown patch. We're going to go on rust here in a minute. But here in the spring, you would definitely put down for brown patch, you would put down the first application, which is Disease X, Scott's Disease X, active ingredient, zoxystrobin. And then right on top of that, secondly, you would put down propiconazole, which is a group 3 fungicide, and that's a bio-advanced product. So it's 2 different modes of action fungicides that you're putting down prior to the brown patch or the Rhizoc coming online or becoming or manifesting itself, or right as conditions allow for it to do that. So last year when I started describing this strategy, we were using what I'm calling professionally formulated products, and I'm just using air quotes here. And what those were was a product called Heritage G, which is an azoxystrobin fungicide. It's a granular. And then we were also using Eagle or propiconazole, which were just concentrates, liquid concentrates, also fungicides, both class 3s. And you'd mix those up in a hand can and spray them. That was the way we did it. Now, that offered you a lot of flexibility and things like that. It also meant, though, that you might have had to buy a little bit more. You might have had to store some things, this and this and that. So this year, I was able to find that same strategy through Scott's Disease X in a bag that covers 5,000 square feet for one application, and then a hose-in sprayer on the Bio Advance that covers one application. Spray, it's 32 ounces, covers 5,000 square feet. So basically, it's a 1 and done. You buy one of each, and you're good. Then you're out of it. You don't have anything left over. You don't have to store anything, nothing like that. And it's convenient. You can go and get it right now. That was the other reason I went to the buy stuff at the store model of the strategy, of the Bulletproof Strategy, was because I wanted you to be able to go right to the store and get it right now. And both those products are available anywhere, everywhere, all over the U.S. So that's why I changed the strategy up. And then apparently Tony here's weighed out his options and decided to go with that strategy this year. But remember, I was more focusing on brown patch at that time. Now he's got a specific here. And his question was about switching them up and this and that. But he's got a specific here, and it's on rust. Now, if you go into YouTube and you search how to get rid of rust disease in the lawn, you will find a video I did a couple years ago. It was funny because I was living back at my St. Petersburg house back then on how to prevent rust disease in the lawn or how to get rid of it. And so I'm actually going to talk specific now to rust disease, which can happen anytime through the spring, remain through the summer, rage in the fall. You know, rust can kind of be that kind of, again, through those seasonal transitions, it'll kind of hang out a little bit through the summer and then push again in the fall, things like that. So rust can be really tough, especially in an area like you're in Mooresville there. There's a lot of humidity that can rage in and out, and you are getting passing thunderstorms, things like that. So if you're going after rust specifically, understand that that is a disease of the leaf. That is a disease of the grass leaf, and the spores and the pustules hang on the leaves. And what happens is, as you disturb those pustules, they burst, more spores go around, and the disease can spread. This is why when you do have rust disease, we tell you to make sure you're catching your clippings and disposing of them, washing your shoes, washing your equipment so you don't spread it to other areas of the lawn. It's also about airflow, and when you do water, you want to make sure you water deep and infrequent. You want to water only in the mornings because everything's up on the leaf. And so with that, then, I'm actually going to change this strategy up, and I'm not going to recommend the Bulletproof Strategy for you on this, Tony. I'm going to recommend that if you still have that Eagle left, stay with that, because that's an excellent product. Or if you have the propiconazole, you can use that, or you can use both of those. They're both a Group 3 insecticide, so they're going to work the same way. You're not getting any kind of extra benefit of using one or the other. So use what you have is what I'm saying. Use up what you have so you don't have to store anything. But I would recommend you use those, because those are delivered in a liquid form, and that liquid is going to coat the leaf where the actual rust fungus resides, and that's what you want. You want it to stick to that. If you use the granular azoxystrobin, it does have some efficacy, and it's on the label, but it's got to go up through the roots. It's got to be systemically, so I recommend instead go with the liquid version, and the Eagle, the propiconazole, which you can call Banner Max, or you can get the Bio Advanced product, are all available in liquids, and just hose that lawn down according to label directions. That's how I recommend you do it with the rust disease or the rust fungus, and you can start that, again, as soon as conditions become favorable. Now, the product that I was looking at said you could do it every 14 days, and I can't remember the max amount of times. Was it 11 times a year? You could do it. Now, I never thought that anyone would need to apply 11 times a year, and you should read the label on the product that you have, because they're all going to be a little bit different, and I'm quoting a label from my memory here. But either way, I remember that propiconazole being, I thought, 11 times every 14 to 28 days. So you got a lot of leeway there with that product, and that's probably the best way to cure up your rust disease. And again, I would work on extra airflow in there. You may even want to cut a little bit shorter in the summer if your grass can handle it, to increase that airflow. And then the third thing you want to do is push the lawn to grow. Think of it like just a bad hair job. Like if you had a bad hair dye job and you want it to grow out, what do you want to do? If you could take some sort of vitamin that would push the bad hair dye out faster, you would. And what you do with your lawn is you shot it with nitrogen. That's what you want to do. So whatever kind of nitrogen you can find, the 700 green effect would work great for this. Spoon it on there, every couple of weeks, bing, bing, bing. And then also maybe some 1801 green punch. Go with liquid. Just push it on that grass, just these little shots of nitrogen to get it to grow through. If you do that, keep everything clean, keep the tools clean, keep it from spreading as much as you can, keep the airflow going, push it with nitrogen and then hit it with that propiconazole according to label directions, I bet you can push that disease right out of there pretty quick this season. And as always, make sure you hope for the best, Tony. Okay, so now for our next one, let's head over to Evansville, Indiana. And here we go. This one comes from William K. First off, I'm a big fan of your channel and podcast. I think you have wonderful theories for lawn care and genuinely care about helping your lawn care brethren. I'm going on year 2 of home ownership in Indianapolis, and during this first year, I hired a local lawn care company to restore my life to my yard as I learned more on the subject to do it myself eventually. I have applied the tools and methods you teach and will be taking on my lawn domination next season with the aid of your manual and many others. I have created my logbook and have done the calculations for what I believe will be a great start to taking ownership. But my question, which I have not seen much discussion on, is that I have a pond that butts up against my backyard, and in the literature and directions, I do not see any advice other than beware of fertilizing too close to the water. In your experience, what would be a safe way to manage the lawn, fert, seed, pesticides going up to that area, but will keep the wildlife safe and not create a swamp thing? I will be using Jonathan Green products this season due to the hefty discount I have at my local store. I think this would be a wonderful topic to be discussed on your show. William, bro, this is a great topic, and it's one I'm very passionate about. I'll tell you why in a minute, but the first thing I want to do is say congratulations on your home outside of Indy there. I lived in Indiana, the Hoosier State, for many years. I love Indiana. I loved living there, and I love my family. Now, I lived up in Northwest Indiana. You're down in Indianapolis, and that was where all the rich folk live. That's how I always looked at it, where we used to take the kids to see all kinds of things on Government Day. But either way, super congratulations, dude, on your house. And I think your strategy is super smart, man. You hire someone to take care of it now while you do that smart thing. You're like, all right, I'm going to learn. I'm going to watch what they do. I'm going to see what happens. I'm going to learn on my own. I'm going to educate myself. All the while, you're being observant of your lawn because you live there, right? Even though someone else is taking on the heavy lifting, and now you're ready to go. You're ready to do that. Man, I wonder how many of you out there in the audience are doing that same thing, and that's exactly why we're here. So super cool, dude. He's got his lawn journal going. He's doing his math. I love that. So let's talk about, though, what about waterways? So what's cool about this is, I live in Florida. As Jimmy Buffett will tell you, I'm from the land where the rivers meet the sea, or in my case, where the rivers meet the Gulf of Mexico. Born and raised on the west coast of Florida, in fact, in Pinellas County, Florida, St. Petersburg, Florida, which is a peninsula all on its own, surrounded by Tampa Bay on one side and the Gulf of Mexico on the other. So I understand what that's like, as well as now where I live is very close to the Manatee River. All of it, everything in our neighborhood drains to the Manatee River, which drains out into the Gulf. And then I have a retention pond or a lake behind me that has lots of beautiful wildlife in it, including a gator that I've filmed, but many birds of prey that we've seen, including a bald eagle and multiple hawks and things like this. I hear owls out there. All kinds of cool fish. We have a lot of beautiful things, some beautiful cypress trees that really draw in some really beautiful wildlife. And they also draw in some wild pigs, which are not beautiful wildlife. But either way, I understand the idea of having something beautiful behind your house that you like, and you probably bought the house because of the pond view behind it, because that's a pretty thing to look at. I love sitting out back, drinking a cold brew, looking at my section of lawn back there, running my sprinklers, which I call my private water show, and then seeing my lake behind with the trees reflecting in the lake. It's beautiful, and I understand it, and you don't want to pollute and destroy that lake. So let me tell you a few things that I think, or a few pieces of advice that I'll give you. Now, the first thing is a lot of products, especially pesticides. Remember, pesticides are herbicides, they are fungicides, they are insecticides, they're miticides, termiticides. There's all these things, all the sides, those are all pesticides, okay? There are a lot of different ways to say that, but pesticides will typically tell you on the label how far away to keep from water in most cases. And it may even be in every case. Somebody can correct me. But I pulled out one of the fungicides, the Scott disease X that we were talking about earlier, and here it says environmental hazards. This pesticide is toxic to freshwater and estuarine marine fish and aquatic invertebrates. Do not apply directly to water. Runoff may harm aquatic organisms. Do not contaminate water when disposing of equipment. Wash water or rinsate. So you can see right there, they're telling you don't get this in waterways, in body of water. Here we think about shrimp. These things can affect shrimp populations, and I love my Key West pinks. I love my Florida Gulf caught shrimp, fried shrimps. So that's something that you want to look at, right? So you definitely don't want those things getting anywhere in the water, near the water, on the water. Now, you're more talking about and referring to what I would believe fertilizers, and that's just as important. And those are not necessarily going to tell you how far away to keep from water, but they'll have some wording on there like, hey, don't throw this in the water. But how far away do you stay? And what's a good general rule of thumb for any of you that have a waterway either in your backyard or anything like that. So the first thing I want to do is I want to go to the Pinellas County ordinance. Now, Pinellas County, Florida, has an ordinance against fertilizing of nitrogen or phosphorus from June 1st all the way until September. We have it here in Manatee County, and most of Florida has it. It's called a fertilizer blackout period or a fertilizer ban. And the reason they have that is because we obviously have a lot of challenges here. If you guys read anything in the news about the red tide that was a problem here last year, I was affected by that, and that going through, it was bad. I couldn't go to the beach for a certain amount of times. Oh, poor baby, right? But just saying, it affects tourism, and it does hurt our economy in a way. Even when I was here and took some buddies out fishing, we had to go out fishing in another area, in another part of the land because of the red tide. So just saying, it affects all of us down here. And one of the ways that red tide is affected, or one of the reasons why red tide can become a factor, is if too much nitrogen or phosphorus or both get into the waterways. It can cause all kinds of imbalances in the ecosystem, which then can invite in the red tide, which is essentially an organism that kills all the living things. Now, there may be a lot of other reasons for these high amounts of nitrogen and phosphorus in the waterways. There are a lot of reasons for that, but we as homeowners, we as applicators do not want to contribute to that. So if there is another underlying problem, which you can tell I'm avoiding talking about in this podcast, but if there is another underlying problem, that's fine. Let legislation deal with that. Let the government take care of that. We as homeowners do our part by not adding to it. And so we adhere to the law. We adhere to the letter of the law during this fertilizer blackout period, which starts June 1st, and it's in most of Florida. But Pinellas County, I think, is probably the strictest. Seriously, they make Home Depot take a lot of these fertilizers off the shelf during this time of year. Now, Manatee County doesn't do that. You can still find full fertilizers on the shelf. They just let you go on the honor system that, hey, if you're buying this fert, you're using it for trees and shrubs or something, you're not putting it on your lawn. Either way, I don't want to get into those things. I do follow the letter of the law. I do follow it. And actually, I'll give you a great fertilizer blackout plan if you go to my website, thelawncarenut.com, and you live in Florida. I have lawn plans there for warm season lawns, and I have a Florida blackout plan that any of you could run, though, because you can keep your lawn double dark green all during the summer without a lot of nitrogen fert. But to go back to that, let's talk about Pinellas County's blackout rules. And in the blackout rules, they also give you some strict fertilizing guidelines of when you are allowed to fertilize. And so here's what they say when you are allowed to fertilize. Here's what they say. Protect our watershed. The fertilizer-free zone begins 10 feet back from the top of the slope towards any seawall or body of water. So what they are saying, the strictest county in Florida that has the strictest blackout period, that does allow some fertilizing certain times of the year outside of June to September. When you are going to fertilize, here's how you do it. The fertilizer-free zone begins 10 feet back from the top of the slope. So if you're looking at your lake behind your house, you can see where it starts to slope. Pick the top of that slope and stay 10 feet off, and you don't fertilize within 10 feet of that top of that slope. So that's the first thing I would recommend that you do. Here are some better strategies on top of that. Yes, you should keep that 10 feet back, and I honor that as well at my house. But the second thing that I do is I switched in my backyard to 100% liquid fertilizer products. I use the 1801 Green Punch and a lot of the 002 Microgreen because liquid is the smallest particle you can get. So when you spray liquid on the lawn, it's going to get into the turf. It's going to get into the soil. There is some foliar absorption, but it's going to get into the soil the quickest. It ain't got to wait on much, right? That's why we even tell you to put the 1801 Green Punch down with the hose end sprayer that delivers it with a lot of water so it gets in, and that counts as watering in. With the fact that we're telling you that your application counts as watering in means it's done, it's good, it's rain fast, you could say, it's in, it isn't running off. That is the advantage to liquids. So the first thing I would do is switch to liquids. The second thing you can do then is if you do need to keep some color out a little closer to that 10-foot range, that's where you use something like an iron product that has no nitrogen and no phosphorus in it, like the 002 Microgreen. And then during times when you know it's not going to heavy downpour, you use that out beyond and get a little closer to that slope with that iron-heavy product that doesn't have the nitrogen and the phos. Again, it's liquid. It's going to absorb quick. It's going to dry quick. It's going to be rain fast quick. You're going to be smart because you're not going to apply it when you know rain is coming. And it lasts a long time anyway. So I would switch to all liquids back there. Now, if you do stay, though, with granulars for whatever reason, because you got the Jonathan Green here, then I recommend you switch to a drop spreader because it's much more easy to control the spread, so you have less likely of throwing some off target that would go into your lake or to your watershed in the back. And then again, I would recommend that maybe you try to look at doing some sort of a blackout period during your rainy season where maybe you only go with liquid iron apps and you don't do any fertilizing at all. institute your own blackout period, institute your own blackout strategy on your lawn. There's nothing wrong with that. It's actually fun and challenging to do that. And you only have to do it in the backyard. I do the rest of my lawn conventionally because I can keep everything hemmed in and good. Now, again, I have a full blackout that comes, and so I follow that full blackout. But even all during the year, even like right now when I'm allowed to fertilize and spray and pray and do everything I can, in the backyard, I'm going all liquid. In fact, if you subscribe to my channel, The Lawn Care Nut, I will be doing my next 1801 Green Punch app in the backyard on the Scott's Pro Vista St. Augustine grass coming up in the next week or two. So there you go, William. And again, I want to thank you for your thoughtful question. That's a good one. And again, near and dear to my heart because I care about the waterways here in Florida. If you're looking for a good song to listen to while you're mowing this weekend, look up Florida Days by Jimmy Buffett. One of the ones that's probably not on the top 20 list, but should be. Just a beautiful song that talks about how beautiful it is here in Florida. And it's one of the reasons why I care so much about the ecosystems and the wildlife and all that around here, and why I am adamant about following all the rules of the Fertilizer Blackout. So very thoughtful question. And William, I challenge you, maybe you take on a little bit of a blackout plan there in your backyard, have a little bit of fun, and enjoy that lake, man. Enjoy the wildlife that it brings, enjoy the views that it brings, enjoy the Instagram photos that you can get with it, and maybe even you'll have a nice water show back there one day like I do. With that, I'm gonna go on to the next one, and as always, William, let's hope for the best. All right, now the next one actually was in the Facebook group. I pulled this one out because it was, again, a thoughtful question, and I thought, man, I wonder if a lot of people are thinking about this maybe in a little bit too strict of a way. So I wanted to bring this one up. This is Joe M., and he put this one in the Facebook group, and it says, regarding mowing height, I've been following Alan's advice for years and trying to mow tall and mow often. I have been seeding with Black Beauty and Black Beauty Ultra for 4 years now. Those are Kentucky Bluegrass blends, I believe. He says, when I cut at 3.5 inches, it seems to lay down or curl over more. But when I cut at 3 inches, it looks perfect. I want to know how many of you are cutting at 3.5 to 4 inches with the same type of grass, or are some of you venturing lower? And so what Joe is asking here, and what Joe is saying is, man, I'm following the rules, but I'm sensing from my experience with my lawn, from learning my own land, I'm sensing that even though Alan says it's best to mow tall, I like mine a little lower. What do you guys think about that? Any of you other guys break that rule of mowing your Kentucky Bluegrass, your fescue, your turf type tall fescue, your perennial rye, your St. Augustine grass? Any of you break the rule of mowing that tall? Those are the ones you should mow tall, by the way, guys. If you want to know what grass types to mow tall, jack your mower blade all the way to the top, St. Augustine grass. Definitely turf type tall fescue, definitely perennial rye, definitely Kentucky Bluegrass. Mow them tall, baby. Now that's the thing I say. Just set it and forget it, to quote Ron Popeil. And that's a good strategy for most of you as you're learning, because there's so many other things that you're taking on at that time. I want mowing height to be out of your purview. I don't want it to be a complication for you. I really want you to start enjoying the mow. I really want you to just only focus on getting the mowing done. You know, one of the biggest challenges I have, and the reason I tell you guys is to mow twice a week, is because I know that most of you will end up mowing once a week. And if I said mow once a week, some of you will only mow every 12 days. So if I push you really hard to mow twice a week, you'll average out somewhere around every 6 days. And that's a win in most cases, especially if last year you were mowing every 10 days and this year you're mowing every 6 or 7. That's a win. That's an improvement. So I push you to perfection, knowing that you're probably going to fall somewhere a little bit short, but that falling short is good as long as you keep striving for perfection, as long as you get better as you go along. That said, mowing tall is not something you have to do for your entire life. Once you get to know your lawn a little bit better, definitely make a better decision. Definitely make your own decisions. Definitely move out of my comfort zone and move into your own. I kind of look at it like this way, like when I was a little kid, let's say, 3rd grade, I had some boundaries about where I was allowed to go. Typically, it would be to the neighbor's house next door and maybe to the neighbor's house across the street. That was it. Those were my boundaries. I wasn't allowed to cross this street, and I wasn't allowed to cross that one, right? Those were my boundaries. But as I got a little bit older, and as my parents trained me, and as I had more experience with crossing streets, and as I learned to ride my bike a little bit better, I learned more confidence with my tools, which was my bike and my skateboard, and maybe I was 10 years old, I got larger boundaries. But then it was, you can't cross these super busy streets. For us, it was 22nd Avenue North, 30th Avenue North, 49th Street, 34th Street, 34th Street. Oh, that's a dangerous one in St. Petersburg. Don't cross that one. So I wasn't allowed to have those boundaries. But I got bigger and bigger boundaries as I learned and as I gained more experience. And then, of course, once I became a teenager, then you don't have any boundaries. You're wild. You're running all over town all hours of the night, right? You're experienced. You've gained things. The one thing you gain from the time that you're 7 years old to the time that you're 16 is just speed. Just straight up, you just gain speed. You just gain speed. Why do you have speed? Because you've just matured physically, so you can do things better, you can do things quicker. And the same happens in your lawn. As you start to learn your lawn and what's the best pattern to mow it in, do I weed whack first? Do I mow that first? How do I mow it over here so I can get this done quicker and I don't blow clippings up into the flower beds? And how do I do this when I'm fertilizing? How do I get this done quicker? Where do I always run out of product so I can make sure I don't run out of product at that spot, or I'll refill before that? You just gain speed. Same thing with the lawn. As you gain that speed, that also helps you to gain confidence. And that's the big one. Confidence also comes from experience, and more experiences in your lawn. The more you experience what your lawn will do and won't do. And that's what we're talking about here with Joe, is he's experiencing the fact that, hey, I'm crossing those busy streets that once were dangerous to me, but I'm not seeing that they're really so dangerous. And in fact, what's on the other side of that busy street's actually pretty cool. Actually, a lot of fun over there. There's a new baseball field I can go play at, a new tennis court, which is what it was for me when I was a kid. We only had one set of tennis courts you could go to, but once you got older and you had more mobility and you had more experience, there was more sets of tennis courts to go to, and so there was more kids for me to dominate on the tennis court. Yeah, because I was a tennis player when I was younger. Now I'm terrible now, and I could tell you a story about a young man, a millennial, those terrible millennials that put me in my place a couple years ago, destroying me in tennis because I still thought I was 18 years old. But either way, I had those more tennis courts that I could get to with more experience to dominate more people in tennis. Wow, we're really off on that one, but you get the idea. And that's the same thing with you, Joe, and that's the same thing with you guys with mowing. Once you have all the other stuff down, right, and you're not scared to cross the busy streets, you're not playing Frogger anymore, by the way. That's the best way to teach your kids how dangerous busy streets are, is to give them that old game Frogger. I used to play it on Atari, by the way. But the idea being, once you gain more experience, once you're faster at correcting problems, once you're faster at avoiding problems, well, then you can go out and start mowing lower and see what you can do with it. That's how you can make your lawn unique. I mean, obviously, Connor Ward is the standout right now that we talk about, that mows Kentucky bluegrass at, I don't know how tall it is, but it's with a real mower, half inch, or it's probably lower than that, right? And he abuses his lawn like an old pair of jeans and all kinds of crazy stuff. But what you guys don't know is that Connor has so much experience with his lawn because he mows it every day. He mows his lawn every single day during the summer. He also has a nice mild climate, and he knows how that mild climate works. And he knows when he can push the lawn. He knows when he needs to slow it down with PGR, plant growth regulator, and all kinds of things. He has really learned. He's crossed a lot of busy streets to get where he is. And in fact, every year he has to relearn some of those busy streets because his lawn gets trashed from the environment that he lives in. So he can mow super low, and he has an outstanding lawn that people stop by and want to just, it's the most Instagrammable lawn probably in the West, I would say. Maybe in the country, I got to say, because of where it's at. So he's flexed his real low, but he's got that experience, he's got that speed, he's got that confidence to do that. And Joe, you can too. But in the meantime, for those of you starting out, don't make mowing your first flex. Flex with fertilizer if you want to do it that way. Use less. See how you do there. Flex less fertilizer and see how you do if you want to flex. Or when you're just starting out, flex more fertilizer. Hit the lawn every 3 weeks instead of every 4. Don't do that every week. Don't do that for more than 2 or 3 weeks, please. I feel like I'm preaching at you here. But go ahead and flex that. Flex your fertilizer at first. Learn what that does. Gain your experience there. Then you can start flexing with your mowing later. But in the meantime, mow tall. With that, as always, of course, let's hope for the best. Okay, last one for the day. This is a fun one. I pulled this one out. This is from Molly up in Seattle. This is one of our recordings. I really want you to hear this one, guys. I know, actually, that this one's going to be helpful to a lot of you. And what this one is about is, Alan, how do I prepare when I got people coming over for a party? How do I prepare the lawn for it to be perfect? How do I do that? Let's go to Molly in Seattle.
Hey, Alan. Molly here from Seattle, Washington. Love the podcast. I've been following your cool season plan. My lawn looks amazing. So here's my question. The weather here in Seattle is getting really nice, and I have an outdoor party in 2 weeks. My lawn is a mix of fescue and ryegrass, so I need your help. What is a good domination plan to really turn my lawn into a showstopper in these 2 weeks that I have? Would a shot of Milo give me some deeper color, or do I not have enough time and maybe extra water? The big question is, when should I mow to really set my lawn off? Do I mow the day of the party or a few days before? Probably both. Anyways, thanks so much for all of your lawn care tips, and I can't wait to hear your answer.
All right, Molly, this is a great one. Now, the challenge I have, and I'm so sorry for this, Molly, is that you called in on the 9th. I'm recording this on the 14th, and by the time I get it edited, it's probably going to be the 16th. And I think we might be a little bit too late for some of this. So I'm going to answer this question, and the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to say, Molly, here's your last minute party prep that I'm sorry that I'm late on the podcast and I couldn't deliver this more in real time for you. So here's your last minute party prep quick. And then we're going to go after that to a strategy for the rest of you, or for Molly for your next party, where you have more advanced time, more time ahead to get that exact lawn look that you want. And of course, why do you want that perfect lawn for your party? Because that makes everybody's beautiful Instagram photos. That's why you want that. So that's why I want to show you exactly what to do. So let's talk to Molly first, again, knowing that I'm behind, that she's probably got a week. By the time this comes out, let's say she's got 7 days. So here's what I'm going to tell you. So the first thing you want to do is 6 days before the party, you want to put down a chelated iron product. You can find liquid chelated iron on Amazon. You can probably find it at most, garden centers, and it's spelled like this: CHELATEY. It looks like chelated, like chelated, but it's actually chelated, right? So you're going to put it down 6 days ahead. And what chelated iron means is it's available to the plant now. You're going to put that down according to label directions, and that's going to give you a deep burst of blue, probably on day 4 and 5, and peak on day 6. But you're early enough because you want to get it watered in, or follow the label. But most of these, you're going to want to get some water on them. But it'll give you enough time ahead of time that it isn't going to leave any type of residual. It's not going to have any iron smell to it, because even though iron isn't bad, it just doesn't smell good. That'll all be long gone. So 6 days ahead, you'll be peaking. So that's the first thing you do. That's the quick burst. Now, that is not a long-term strategy, and I'm going to give you a strategy again coming up that gives you something that's a little bit more longer-term, that actually going to help the lawn overall in long-term form, as well as give you the quick green up. But for Molly, that's what you want, some chelated iron 6 days before. Now, the second piece then is the mowing, and Molly, you do have time to get this right. So the thing about cool season turf is it looks best right after it's cut. When you guys see my old videos at the church lawn there in Crown Point, Indiana, I was mowing that lawn on Saturdays, knowing that service was on Sunday. And I'm going to give you that same strategy that I would use there, because I wanted things to look good. I wanted people to pull up to church and go, wow, this place is first class. If they're going to put this kind of effort into making their lawn pretty, I know I'm going to get some value on the inside. I really believed that. And by the way, I still believe that type of thing today. So with that, here's how you're going to dazzle those people at that party with your mowing. I'm assuming this is a lawn type party, and we want to create great moments in the lawn for people. And I think that the mowing height of cool season lawns at 4 inches is not necessarily the most comfortable mowing height for a lawn type party. I don't think playing bags. You guys play bags up there in Seattle, Washington? You guys play the bags, Sabine bags? Maybe you guys call it cornhole, or maybe you're playing horseshoes. I don't know. If you guys have those type of lawn games, 4-inch height of cut, that just seems a little uncomfortable to me. That seems a little tall. That seems like things are going to mat down. That all might even affect gameplay in some cases. So what I would recommend for that lawn party to make it look pristine, and also to have it stand out, I'd give it a shorter cut and try to get down to 3 inches, even 2 3/4. Now, Molly, that's going to be tough for you. You got 7 days to get there. You got to take it down quick. You may have to mow a couple times between now and then, and I know you got a party to get ready for, and I know you're probably doing other things, but you know the lawn takes precedence. So every couple days, boom, 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 take it down a couple notches. Get it to 3, get it to 2 3/4 if you can. The other thing you want to do is catch the clippings all during this week, just to suck everything up, clean everything up. We don't want anything left in the lawn. I did want to mention also, we don't want to use any Milorganite fertilizer, because I wouldn't want to have any kind of scent that could be lingering. That's, again, why I recommended the chelated iron. So just wanted to bring that part back up as it hit my mind here. But make sure you are doing that mowing and catching those clippings just to keep everything clean. Now, here's one other thing, and that's the stripes. I want you to set the stripes in deep. So during these final 3 mowings, as you're taking that height down a little bit, make sure you're setting your stripes in perfect. Set the same stripe pattern in all 3 mowings. I would typically not recommend you do that. I'd recommend you vary your stripe patterns week to week to week. Make diamonds, make argyle socks, whatever you want to do. Make swooshes and sweeps and creeps and bleeps, right? But for you, Molly, you got a party coming up. You got to set those stripes in deep, and you can do that over the final 3 mowings. Now, think about the stripes. When are your party guests arriving, and where are they arriving from? What is their $100 view as they drive up to the party, as they drive into your driveway or the parking area? Or maybe you guys know when people come to a party, what do they always do? They do a drive-by first. They got to catch a lay of the land. They see your balloons, swinging on the mailbox. They're like, oh yeah, that's a one. But let's drive by. Let's see if the Manettis showed up yet. Did the Manettis show up yet? I don't know. I don't know if they're here. Is your mother-in-law here? I watch too much Bill Burr. You get what I'm saying? People do the drive-by. So when they're doing the drive-by, Maybe they got to turn around in the cul-de-sac. What are they going to see? Where are the stripe angles at? What's the best $100 view that most guests are going to have to see? Now, you also have to keep in mind, what is your sun angle? You may not be able to have, because of the time of your party, right? The time your guests arrive matters. Maybe because of the time of the party, you're not going to be able to get the front yard they're driving in, getting that first impression view. That's fine. Then just make it tight. That's what I said. Just make everything tight. Still cut the front low, even if the party's in the back. We still want to have business in the front and business in the back. That's what we want. So cut that front good. Now, then there's going to be some stripe angle. There's going to be some spot. There's going to be, and I don't know what kind of party this is, but maybe there's a guest of honor that people are going to want to take photos with. Maybe it's a wedding party. Maybe it's a graduation. I bet it's a graduation, isn't it? People are going to want to take photos. Let's think about, where are the stripes? Oh, we have such an opportunity to give people such a beautiful Instagram photo. If we set those stripes up right for the sun at the time of the party, and literally set up the photo area, literally tell people, take your photos from this area if you want to see the best view. Now, that might make your guests have to stare into the sun, but too bad. The lawn matters more than their eye comfort. They should have brought sunglasses for an outdoor party. So if people have to look into the sun, so you can make sure that the sun is behind you, so the stripes show. By the way, you got to watch your shadow in the photo. Make sure that people's shadows aren't in there. You're going to have to coach people a little bit here, Molly. But what I'm saying is, you have an opportunity to set in some beautiful stripes and make some beautiful Instagrammable moments for people and show off that beautiful lawn of yours. It's already going to be double dark. We know that. And the last thing you want to do is set 2 plastic pink flamingos somewhere in a very conspicuous spot, because that will definitely be another Instagrammable moment for folks, and let them know that they've been to a party where they've been dominated. Now, let's say you have a little bit more time. Let's say you have more time on your hands. I've already given you the Mow strategy. You're going to take yours down to that same 2.75 inches, but when you do that, you're going to have more time to do it. So you guys that have a little bit more advanced time, take that mow height down over 3 weeks. That way, if anything goes a little awry or gets a little funky, you can correct it. You have time to overcome it. The other thing you have time to do is to not just blow out like a whole shot of chelated iron and just do that for a color pop and be done. You actually have a chance to feed the soil a little bit. You have a chance to help the plant overall by giving a full micronutrient stack, but also giving it a little shot of specially formulated nitrogen with high iron. And the way you do that is with what we call our double dark. That's the 002 microgreen, and it's the 700 or 700 green effect. We call it the double dark. Jake the Lawn Kid invented that term. It's 6 ounces of 002 microgreen and 6 ounces of 700 green effect in 1 gallon of water. Put the water in halfway up first, put in the concentrates, fill it up the other way. You got your full gallon now, and that will cover 1,000 square feet. That will give your lawn a double dark pop. Still, 6 days in advance is plenty of time. But if you have more time, you could actually do 1 shot of that 14 days in advance and do a second shot of that 6 days in advance. And now you got double dark. Stick with that same mowing strategy, and I promise you, you will really have a dark green lawn. The other thing that you have a chance to do when you do have more advanced time here is to really set your stripes in deep, as well as experiment maybe even with some different patterns. So maybe you set the stripes in the back. We talked about those graduation photos. Maybe you do set that Argyle diamond pattern. You got a little bit more time to plan that strategy out, looking at where the sun will be. Also keeping in mind that the angle of the sun changes, especially in the summer. As the days are getting longer and longer, the angle of the sun is changing fairly rapidly. So you want to watch, where is the sun going to be 3 weeks from now on my party, and how do I set it right? I mean, it's almost like old school where they used to set the pyramids facing like the vernal equinox and all that kind of stuff. I watch too much Joe Rogan, but you can do a very similar thing to create beautiful Instagrammable moments for your graduation party this summer or whatever else you guys got coming up. So I think that's enough. I think I've rambled enough today. I know that I took a little bit of liberties in this podcast, going off into some different things. I always do try to encourage you guys along the way, but I also try to bring some tips. Again, if you will subscribe on YouTube, we do break this up into segments. If you prefer to digest it that way, of course, you can also get Lawns Across America on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, and every other podcast platform. And with that, I'm Alan Hain, the Lawn Care Nut. I really appreciate you listening, and I'll see you in the lawn.